Still.
How could you do it? How could you rape those poor little sheep?
Sire, wrong case.
So you're the one who stole the yellow rose of Texas.
Wrong case again, sire.
You're the one that's not Catholic?
Yes.
Well then, you're going in the dungeon.
The prisoner could feel himself going downward into the depths of the dungeon, unknowing of his current fate. The narrator was passed out for a half hour. Then he woke up, struggled to get free from his restraints. He was confused at the size of the room, so he decided he would tie the rope to the wall and make a circle around the room to see how big it was. Felt along the wall, stumbled upon objects, as he could not see in the dark dungeon. Near his goal, he suddenly loses strength and collapses from fatigue. "15 minutes later, he awoken. Discovered they had left him nourishment. His hunger and thirst consumed him. After consuming his nourishment, he began the task again.
found the rope, and judging by how far he had walked, that he thought the perimeter of the dungeon was that of 100 fort yards. He then decided to figure out how far across it was. While wandering aimlessly in the darkness, he tripped.
Oh! I bet you 10 pesos he falls in that pit within like 10 minutes.
10 minutes, you're mad. I say 25.
I say two pesos.
Two minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes. Alright. I guess I'll go with that.
That sounds good.
Hey look, he's going for the pit!
As he lay there on the ground, he realized that his body was touching the cold floor, but his head was in the air. He looked around and noticed that his head had fallen just above a circular pit, but he couldn't tell how far down it goes. He smelled, and it smelled horrible, almost as if he was looking down into a septic tank. To his right, he found a rock, and he decided he could use this to judge the size of the pit and the depth. He threw it. It had to be at least 100 feet deep. He sat up as he could with his strength, but he was still weak.
How can he miss that thing? That thing is huge! Like, gigantic! Rosie O'Donnell could fit in that!
He was still laying on the ground, but he began to stir. He looked around and noticed another pitcher to his right, and he was quite parched. So he grabbed it as quickly as he could and drank. Ravishingly. He got up and started to walk around, feeling his strength return. After a few steps, he began to feel weak again. And he tried to grab the wall, but to no luck. He was out for the count. He woke up on a bench in the same room, disoriented because the water in the pitcher was drugged. He looked up at his surroundings and noticed he couldn't move because he was tied down. He looked over to his left and noticed a bowl. What could be inside the bowl? He put his hand inside and realized it was meat. Why were his prisoners feeding him? Then he looked up at the ceiling and noticed a mighty pendulum. He was afraid of the pendulum, but not as afraid as he was of dying. He had misjudged the size of the room. It was smaller than he had originally thought. He must have miscalculated somewhere, but now that did not matter. All that mattered was that he had to get out of this contraption. He looked around and noticed that one of his arms was free. And then he saw a bunch of rats on the ground. He quickly thought of a way to use these rats to his advantage to escape from his tormentors. The pendulum was coming down slowly. He couldn't tell how fast. The rats were rambunctious, biting at him, ripping off his flesh. And then he passed out.
Fucking rats.
As the prisoner awokened, he realized that he had to escape. An epiphany appeared inside of his head. If he rubbed the meat onto the strap, the rats would probably eat it. He began smearing the meat all over it. Just as he thought, the rats began eating the strap.
The rats had chewed through the strap, keeping the prisoner on the bench. He used all his might and lifted the strap off of his body. The pendulum getting closer to slicing through him. You escaped the pendulum too?
Damn it! Now we gotta turn the walls on! The walls were closing in on him. They were on fire. He couldn't touch them, otherwise he would be burned. His only hope was to go for the only sanctuary in the dungeon, the pit. He was falling into the pit. There was no hope. But wait! The French army had came to save him. The Inquisition was no more.
Je suis français.